Okay, you can begin.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon to my colleagues. Our topic today is leadership and ethics, business class 203. We will be dealing with understanding complex organization on chapter 8. Our presenters today are Ms. Nina Rollins, Kelvin Suknanan, and myself from that Monroe. Our reference text, which these information have been taken from, is Exploring Leadership, the second edition. You can also, for reference, if you all would like personal reference, you could download it from the internet. Our discussion and lecture this afternoon pertains to group and organization, where we will define group, define organization, and give some characteristics on organizations. Organization and complex systems, where we'll talk about the system itself, the principles and concepts. Organization leadership, the existence of leaders and how they operate within the organization. We also speak about the organizational structure and the different types of organizational structure that do exist. Additionally, we'll speak about the difference in mission statements, vision, and core values within an organization. Also, we talk about the life cycle of organization and its culture. And there are 3 levels of which we'll be given other information on. Virtuality and the impact of technology, how technology affects the organization, and the positive impact and negative impacts. Also, the new paradigm leadership system, which we'll be talking about the e-leaders. So we talk about groups and organizations. To give a fair idea of a group can be defined as a collection of individuals who share a common identity, purpose, or goal, and who interact with each other in a structured way. Group can be formal or informal, and they can vary in size. An organization can be defined as a large collection of groups of people that interact in a continuous manner within an organization or within a complex structure to accomplish a specific goal. So within this, the difference between group and organization is that within organization, there are groups. So for example, like the Trinidad Fire Service, we do have different sections or departments. So like, for example, we have like engineering section, fire prevention sections. They all have groups, but they are still within the organization. So we see here groups, various groups make up the organization itself. To give a little demonstration on this particular instance, we have the separation between groups and organization here. So first of all, we will ask the question of who, and that is the amount of people involved. So in the groups, they have small amounts, like 3, a little more than 3, within 3 to 20 or less. And within our organization, there are 20 plus participants. We also ask the question as to what and how as to why this collection of individuals and how much with regards to their roles and function. And we see here in groups that Israeli is a collection of individuals, whereas the organization is a collection of groups. As I said before, groups will actually make the organization or build the structure within the organization. There are also continuous interaction for groups and continuous interaction for organization. So we see here that they both interact with each other. Also, we ask the question where. For groups, they have close proximity. Within organization, proximity ranges. It could be close, it could be far. So within a group, there will be close range. So you'll be talking and interacting with each other. Whereas within an organization, They might have one section in South, one in North, but they still do communicate with each other. So we ask also with regards to the structures. There are simple structure within groups, yet there are complex structure within organization. As we will talk further in the later slides about complex structures. But both groups and organization do have purpose. And purpose meaning why they exist. So these are some characteristics of organization. They are inherently social entities. Also, they have many participants. This is just to expand on the participants. If we think about ourselves as an individual, entering primary school, we would have friends. Going up into secondary life, we'd have more friends. Going up into work life, you have more friends. So the system keeps building within you as an individual. And now we are that, so we have more friends. So within the system itself, you can see that it is persons that keep on adding. Within an organization is the same principle that applies. And in this way, we see that values, ideas, and interests do change because more persons come into your life, they make a difference. So we also there are a collection of groups of people all working together to accomplish the same goal or common goal. And we see that within an organization. So even if there are groups within an organization, they work towards a mission or a common goal of the organization. And there are complex structure within an organization also, or is a type of organization. So I'll move further to explain so we could have a better understanding of complex organization. A complex organization is a large and multifaceted entity made up of many interconnected parts or systems. So we see here organization basically, they are made up of different entities. That's what makes it complex. These subsystems can include departments, teams, functions, processes, and procedures that work together to achieve the organization's goal and objective. So even though it is complex, meaning have different entities within it, they still do have a common goal, and that is the objective of the organization. So within a complex organization often have a hierarchical structure with multiple levels of management and decision making. They may also have formalized systems for communication, information sharing, and decision making. Complex organizations can be found in a variety of sectors, including business, government, healthcare, education, and non-profit organization. For example, like hospitals is a complex organization, or a university is a complex organization. So the organization as a complex system exhibits properties that are not present in its individual components. These properties arise from interaction amongst the culture of the organization, collective values, beliefs, and employers' behavior. Organizational leadership. We will touch on the organizational leadership as an individual session, reason being leadership is a very wide range, and it do speaks a lot. So we'll just narrate organizational leadership. And there we ask ourselves, why do leaders exist within an organization? And these points is what gives the leaders their existence or why they are there, for direction, guidance, support, and inspiration. And all these things happen within a group of people. And they all, as I mentioned before, seek to achieve a common goal within the organization. Leaders also have the ability to influence and motivate others to work together towards a shared vision, assisting in navigating through obstacles. So there you see that in times of problems and trials and tribulation, leaders do take charge and to help and assist in any way or always possible to get out of the situation. They are decision makers, goal setters, they use strategies, and also encourages teamwork. They promote a positive and productive work environment, fostering innovation and creativity. And this is what contributes together to build team. Leaders in an organization is taking the organization from one point to another to accomplish the mission of an organization. They do have the ability to keep the organization in existence. In so doing, this keeping the team together will have a positive drive to the workers or to the team members. So I'll move forward. We speak about the organizational structure. Organizational structure deals with the ways organization arranges its various departments, functions, and employees into a hierarchical or non-hierarchical framework. Organizational structure enables an organization to effectively achieve its goals by providing clear lines of communication, establishing roles, responsibilities, and facilitates decision-making process. It also defines how tasks are divided, how authority is distributed, and how communication flows within an organization. So within an organization structure, you will actually see something like, if you want to take it into consideration of the roles and responsibility within an organization, you will actually see the structure and the way the reporting system is that brings the organization together itself. So within the organization, there are different the organization, there are different types or models of organizational structures. And this particular type is a traditional type organizational structure. This was developed by a gentleman by the name of Max Weber, which speaks about the classic bureaucratic model. In this model here, we see that the president at the highest point, and we have officers or committee chairs at the middle, and we have participants / members at the base. Now, this is known as the classic bureaucratic model of an organization. The design of the structure is for accountability, and it also refers to a reporting system. This also speaks to the model of a top-down approach, where the power and authority comes from the top and it trickles down to the lower part of the triangle itself. Just to mention that within the realm of the Ministry of National Security, this model is what we really follow. The police, prison, fire. So we have, like, for example, in the fire service, we have the chief fire officer as the head. So, and firefighters are the lower ranks. So it's basically the same model. Same as police. You have the commissioner of police at the head, and you have constables at the rear, but at the base. There's also another type of organizational structure, the inverted type, or the inverted organizational structure. This is really the opposite of what was showing just now. So this is basically a flip pyramid. This model generally speaks to the greater amount of members at the top. And in this model, you'll actually see the president at the base. Now, in the last slide, we saw that the president was at the top. The president at the top is basically more of a command and control system. But here we see that the president is at the base of the system. And this speaks to the president really being this as a support role for the top. So we have the members at the top and the president at the base. So the president really supports the members. In this system, the members share and are more acquainted with customers or people. Whereas in the flip of the hierarchical structure, we see where the top really just do the communicating, but on the flip side of it, concerning the inverted organizational structure, we see the participants or the members who are at the top. So they who actually corresponds with the customers. There's another type of organizational structure which is known as the web structure. This process is called the web structure, reason being that the common purpose is in the middle of the web. And there is where basically a leader is. This structure is a more elastic type structure where you do have persons who coming into the organization. It is very easy for them, or more adaptable for them on joining the organization. It is not a hierarchical structure, but this system is where each one could interact with each other. Additionally, the communication and information given within the structure, it is widespread across. So it's not that you have a top-down approach where you have to go to the top. No, this is across the section of the organization. One of the things within this type of structure is it do have open communication. So each sections and persons do interact with each other. So we do have an equal distribution of information. And as I said before, this is a more type of elastic system. So you do find it is very easy to reinvent itself. So you may add to some parts as the case may as it widens. So it's very easy to adapt to the different situations that occur. I will now pass you on to Ms. Nina, who will continue with this presentation.
Thank you, Ramzat. My presentation today will be on the organization, mission, vision, and core values. And what this basically says is, in order to prepare a well-crafted mission statement, there are some questions that must be asked and also answered. What does the organization do? Who does it serve? What value does it embody? And what does it distinguish it from other organizations? Next slide. Next slide. Here we have an example of the one before. Here we have an example of a mission statement, and I'm certain that many of you, my colleagues, would be familiar with this particular mission statement and vision. And in this mission statement, what it speaks about is the partnership with the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. We provide a safe and secure communities and other places through professional policing, focused leadership, and consent, high quality service. And if you take a mental note of the questions was asked in the previous slide, I'm certain many of you could recognize the most important points. Example, what does the organization do? And in the mission statement, it clearly states that they provide a safe and secured communities. The second question is also answered. Who does it serve? And thereby in the first line, we see that it serves the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. When we look at the values, it would be the focused leadership, the high quality service, and the professionalism. And lastly, when it distinguishes, what distinguishes from the other is the approach in policing. So this is definitely an example of a properly prepared mission statement. Next slide. Next slide. As we look further into the mission statement, the slide before this, Rob, that. Are you hearing me clearly?
Yes, we are.
At this slide, what we look at the mission statement, and what is the mission statement? I want to say that the mission statement is a concise statement that describes the fundamental purpose and values of an organization. It communicates the organization's reason for existence and what it hopes to accomplish. A mission statement should be clear, specific, and inspiring, and it can serve as a guide for decision-making and strategy development. It also establishes a strong brand identity and build trust with customers and stakeholders. Next slide. When we look at the vision, vision statement, it gives a clarification as to the long-term direction of an organization and its strategic intent to reach organizational goals or objectives. It is a pathway towards the mission of the organization. What that this last line specifically says, that the vision and the mission complements each other, because they are both act as a guide into the actions of the employee of the organization. Additionally, a vision can also be described as an ideal or unique image for the future of the organization and for what the company aspires to achieve in the future. And these goals must tap into the motivational system of the employee of the organization. So basically, vision is what the future looks to achieve in the future. Take, for example, the police service, which I'm a part of. Our vision, and it's really prescribed in the strategic plan for the organization, and it usually is always in advance 2 to 3 years. And one of the vision is the reduction of the murders, or more patrols, or more stop and search, more operational exercises. And this will be different from a business. The vision for a business may be to expand internationally, to have more retail stores, and so forth. So this is what the vision is about. It's always the plan for the future, for what the future plans of the organization. Next slide. Next slide. Here we look at the core values. And what they said the core values are fundamental beliefs, principles, and ideas that guide an individual, group, or organization's behavior and decision-making process. It is important, ethical, and desirable. And it provides a sense of purpose and direction, helping individuals, organizations, prioritize their goals. Example of core values can include honesty, integrity, respect, responsibility, compassion, excellence, and innovation. Next slide. Next slide. In this slide, we look at the organizational culture. And an organization culture is defined as a pattern of shared basic assumptions that was learned by a group as it solves its problem for external adaptation and internal integration. Culture is an infinite game that has no boundaries. And for this reason, society is defined by boundaries and culture is defined by horizon. Next slide. Next slide. Here we look at the culture, organization culture, and its 3 levels. And this is based on Chen 2004, where he said that culture has 3 basic levels, different levels. The first one being artifacts. And these are the structures and processes of the organization. They are the things that an outsider can see, and it may include dress norms. The response, beliefs, and values are the strategies, goals, and philosophy of the organization claims it embraces. And it can affect how the members interact and represent the organization and can be reinforced in public declaration. And I would use an example again with the TTPF because this is an organization I'm familiar with. And in terms of the public declarations, you would see it in the social media. Officers getting involved in actions which is not through the guidelines and the principles that the organizations does. Some of them getting involved in criminal activities. Some of them, the general behavior and the way they treat the citizen is unbecoming and brings this disrepute into the organization. And when you look at social media and the way that the public respond to anything negative about the police service, and not about specifically the individual, but the entire organization is questioned. You hear comments that police is dog, they corrupt and so forth and so forth. And this not only affects the individual, but it affects every member of the organization because it's like an apple in a barrel with a bad seed. You understand? So they generalize their statements. In the third part, we look at the deepest level. And this is the underlying assumptions. These are the belief, perception, thoughts, and feeling that are assumed to be true by the member of the organization, and it dives into the values and action. Next slide. Next slide, please. The framework of the organization, and this is from the perspective of Terence Dale and Annan Kennedy, 1982. Here he identified certain frameworks. We have first the value, which is the core of the organization and the behaviors of the members. And this, as we refer back to the artifact, you would see this is what we are speaking about, the behaviors of the members and how their behaviors not only affect the other members, it affects the organization in general. Then we have the heroes, and they are the persons that make success possible. They are considered to be the role models and make the organization special. They have a standard of performance and how they motivate the members. And as individuals, even young, as we newly join our individual organization, we, in our span in the service of our individual service, would have come across or met or worked closely with these persons who we consider to be heroes, right? And we judge them based on their not only the interaction with other members in the service, but how they interact with the general public, how they go out of their way to do things that is in keeping with the rules and regulations that is set down by the organization. And they also motivate. And these persons don't necessarily have to be at the higher rank, you know. It could be our peers, same rank, or somebody even at a lower rank. But it's how they interact, their interaction and their love for the job. This is what we consider them to be heroes. When we look at the rights and the rituals, these are the formal and informal guidelines based on the intricacies of how the organization operates. And the formal guidelines for the TTPS would be from the standing orders, from the departmental orders, from the Police Service Act, and so forth, because these are written down. Whereas if informal guidelines is how you expect somebody to really to interact with the public, to be kind, to be courteous, you know, to be respectful, right? So this is what I consider to be the informal guidelines. It's not written down, but it's expected that you do it. And lastly, we have the communication. And communication is in networking by examining how the information is gathered and disseminated, both formally and informally. And this includes how the members should communicate, socialize, work, and play, as well as what action should be recognized and how they would be rewarded. And to go further into the communication aspect, we also examine some of the ways that messages are communicated in an organization. And firstly, we have the whispers in the workplace. And most of the time, this turns out to be true because of the connection of the person who's sending the message and their relationship to maybe a leader in the company, right? And we all know about the whispers. You know, sometimes you're just hearing the talk, as they say, boy, again, a promotion going to happen next week, or something of importance, and then you'll see it happen. Then we have the gossips. And, you know, even though I don't indulge maybe 100%, we all like a little gossip, right? But the only thing with the gossip is that there's some level of truth, but it's what you as the individual want to believe. Then we have the administrative support sources. And this is really 100% because most of the administrative support costs, that trickle down from the top level to the lower level. So these information is 100% fact and truthful. Then we have the spies, and in the local parlance, we call them brown tongues. And I'm certain in each organization, we are aware of a few of them. And they are what they call the loyal to the leaders. We could never understand their main purpose, but I always remind me of the dog and the bone. So they always bring a bone, bring some information, and wait until you respond. And they take it back to your seniors, your supervisors. And these are the persons you have to be careful of, for me personally, because they always take their own interests. And then lastly, we have the cabals, which is a group or two or more people from within the organization who join together to advance themselves. And I have no issue with the cabals because they work together. So they are like a team. If it's time for promotion exams, they come together, they study promotional interview, they throw a question at each other. So they work together, and most of the time they are very successful, right? Each one having each other's back. That is how they work. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. Then we have the 4 frames of the organization, and this is from the perspective of Goldman and Deal, 2003. And they identified these 4 frames as a structural frame. And this frame focuses on the formal processes like the organizational charts, the roles, and job descriptions. The human resource frame emphasizes the people in the organization, their feeling and motivation. The political frame focuses on the scarcity of resources, so organizations are inevitably in conflict with each other and must operate in ways such as forming coalitions that will enable them to gain more. And lastly, we have the symbolic frame, which focuses on ceremonies, stories, and heroes. And it helps define the organization and reveal or reflect its value. Next slide. Next slide, Ramdat. Good. In this slide, we look at the Husted 5 dimension. We have the power index, power distance index, and this is based on society support for equality or inequality. And as we dive further into this index, we also look at the high power index and the low power index. The high power index indicates that culture accepts inequality and power differences, encourages bureaucracy, and shows high respect for authority. Whereas the lower power index indicates that culture encourages a flat organization structure and feature decentralized decision-making responsibility, participative management style, and emphasis on power distribution. The individual work is emphasized over collective action. It indicates that there is a greater importance placed on attaining personal goals, whereas the collectivism indicates that there is a greater importance placed on the goals, well-being of a group, a person image, and is the category of is we. So when we talk about the individualism, this is about me, the individual in the organization, and what I want to achieve from the organization, whether I am comfortable at my rank, so I want to be promoted to the higher rank, or even aspire to reach to the executive rank. So this is about you, the individual. Whereas the other one, the collectivism, is about we as a group, as a team, working together to achieve the goals of the organization. So this is the difference between the both of them. Then we have the masculinity, and traditionally male values are over traditionally female values. And it comes from the following characteristics: distinct gender roles, assertiveness, and concentrated on material achievement and wealth building. The feminine part of it comes from the following characteristics: fluid gender roles, modesty, nurturing, and a concern with the quality of life. Then we have the uncertainty avoidance index, and this is the degree of ambiguity and uncertainty. A high uncertainty avoidance index indicates a low tolerance for uncertainty, ambiguity, and risk-taking, minimized through strict rules and regulation. And a low uncertainty avoidance index indicates a high tolerance of uncertainty, ambiguity, and risk-taking. The unknown is openly accepted, and there are lax in rules and regulation. So the difference between the both is that the high, the rules and regulations are followed 30. So it's strict. Whereas the low, there is rules and regulation, but people are accustomed doing their own thing. And this could be, the low one could be a breakdown into the structure in terms of how the organization operates. Because if people want to do what they want, there's no real structure. Lastly, we have the long-term orientation, and there's a long-term perspective over short-term views. The long-term orientation shows focus on the future and involves delaying short-term success or gratification to achieve long-term success. And the short-term orientation shows focus on the near future. It involves delivering short-term success or gratification and places a stronger emphasis on the present than the future. Next slide. So this is just a continuation on Hosford 5 dimension. And what it says that this dimension can help us to understand our organization by reminding us that people have different beliefs and preferences for how the world should work. It's important to have a sense of culture in your organization because it provides insight of how the organization operates. Additionally, when we consider the concept of change in some organization, there will always be employees who will be resistant to change. And as leaders, we must provide the necessary information, support, and encouragement to our subordinates so they too can see the benefits of change in the organization. And this generally speaks to all organizations. I mean, change is something that we can't stop, and change will happen. But I think the veterans, the persons who are there for maybe 20, 30 years, you know, because they're so familiar with the normal way of doing things, they are resistant to change. But in order for the organization to grow and to progress, they have to come on board. Otherwise, we would just fail. Next slide. Next slide, Ramdat. And then we have the organization networks. And the networks could be defined as a group of people working together based on common purposes. They can provide a chance to bring together a wide range of individuals and may address a specific issue. The key issue to the formation of the network includes agreement on the purpose, creating as many links as possible among members, and making sure that multiple leaders exist within the network. And when we talk about organization network, the Ministry of National Security could be a good example. As police officer, at many times I would have to call on the members of the fire service to assist in situations where we have a prisoner or a citizen to take to the hospital and the ambulance is not available. And it's not only limited to that organization in terms of the Ministry of National Security, but we also interact with other agencies, the banks, if there's a situation with fraud, right? So we have to communicate. So is the networking is throughout the entire system, not only specific to that area where you are familiar with. Next slide. Now we'll have Kelvin to speak about the life cycle of the organization.
Hi, good day. Good day, sir. Good day, everyone. Well, I will continue with the life cycle of organizations. And as we see, the critical point in the success of any organization is the ability to adapt to change, changing in conditions, changing membership, and changing leadership. And as my colleague Nina just talked about change, no one likes change. But how will we know until we try it? If we try it, then we just know. Sometimes we try something, you say, yeah, boy, it worked better. So change, we must adapt to change, right? And that's the only way an organization could move forward. This ability to adapt enables an organization to renew itself and maintain its vibrancy. Right, Ram, let's move on to the next slide, please. Hello? Right, here we look at the life cycle of organizations. Right? With the life cycle of organizations, we look at the multicultural organizational development. Right? This process emphasizes the full participation of members from all cultural and social groups and the commitment to end all forms of social oppression that may exist within the organization that blocks the meaningful, inclusive involvement of all members. The emphasis on diversity and social justice offers a fresh perspective from which to approach organizational transformation. Because the relational leadership model emphasizes being inclusive and empowering, it is essential to understand how an organization might transform itself to be multicultural. Let's think a minute there about if every organization under the Ministry of National Security, right, made a commitment to end all make a commitment to end all forms of social oppression, right? That would clearly be a transformation, right? And in that way, it'll be a better place for all of us workers who there, right? Jackson and Polvino offer similar models for multicultural organizational development. Their models show the organization moving from a perspective that is monocultural and exclusionary to one that is compliant and non-discriminatory through a redefinition process, and finally to a multicultural perspective. Of particular importance in Jackson and Polvino's 1988 work is the elaboration of the assumptions that change agents make depending on whether they come from a monocultural, non-discriminatory, or multicultural perspective. Whereas those coming from a monocultural perspective view society as basically harmonious and doing all right. Ram, we could just move to the next slide, please. Right, this is where we talk about the monocultural perspective, right? Where they say basically harmonious and doing all right. And those that have a multicultural perspective see society as filled with conflict and in need of radical change. Learning to understand, respect, and work effectively with others who have strongly held views that differ from your own is one of the great challenges of being a leader. It is absolutely necessary as you work to make your organization a better place for all people. Next slide, please, Ram. Right. As we continue, right, the term learning organization is used to describe organizations that have the capacity to grow, change, and develop in order to adapt to the challenges of their constantly changing environment. Right? The conceptualization of the learning organization includes the modules of personal mastery, mental models, shared vision, team learning, and system thinking, which are guiding principles of the primacy of the whole, the community nature of self, and the generative power of language. So we look, Ram, next slide, please. We look at the personal mastery. Right, personal mastery, this involves individuals doing the best possible job. This includes everyone in the organization possessing skills and abilities that can be contributed to the organization. The benefit can provide the opportunity for individuals to gain skills, be effective in their current roles, and prepare them for future position. But you see, if you think about a treasurer, just think about a treasurer in an organization, right? This you might include know how to use financial software, being able to follow the steps needed to purchase something, and having budgetary skills. Right? Everyone in our organization, officers and members, has skills and abilities that can be contributed to the organization. It is important for leaders, right? We consider ourselves leaders because we manage it, right? To work with the group's membership, not only so the individual can gain the necessary skills for them, right? For them to be effective in their current roles within the organization, but also as a way of preparing them for the future positions. When members are skilled and empowered to use these skills, everybody benefits. The whole organization benefits from that. So let's look at the mental models. Ram, could we move on, please? Next slide. Right, the mental models are the assumptions that people make about various aspects of the world. These mental models are often difficult to grasp and therefore are sometimes difficult to change. But these models must be changed if any real positive change is to occur in the world. Disagreements sometimes arise because these differing mental models are not brought to the surface so they can be examined and if needed to be changed, well changed. Right? Right. It is important to compare the mental models that you have with others in your organization. In this way, well, false assumptions can be minimized. Mental models can also be empowering for a whole organization. Think what could happen if when members thought about, well, your organization, right? The concept of inclusion, empowerment, process, ethics, and common purpose immediately came to mind. These images, well, the images could do a lot to guide the organization in the way that would help make it strong and successful. Next slide, please, Ram. Let's move to shared vision. Right. Shared vision, it focuses on the idea that the mission, vision, and purpose of the organization must be shared by all members. The shared vision, it is especially important given the current emphasis on empowerment. People can be empowered, right? And their personal mastery level high. They could have a high mastery level, but if they don't have a shared sense of direction, everyone will be pushing in different directions. You know, like helter-skelter, this kind of way. This will result in an organization being haphazard and it may not move at all. So that is what shared vision is more or less, right? So we'll go on to the concept of team learning here, right? So the concept of team learning is also vital in any learning organization. It must be supplemented by learning at the team, organizational, and societal levels if any true learning is to occur. Right? What we're saying is learning must be supplemented by learning at the team, organizational, and societal level if true learning is to occur, right? This may include learning how to make decisions, how to communicate, how to disagree, and these kind of things, right? The concept of team learning also underscores the need to consider leadership as an ongoing process rather than an end result or product. Well, just as team members are constantly engaged with each other in learning new approaches, leaders must continually engage in dialogue with its members of the organization. Let's move forward to the next slide, please, Ram. System approach. The system approach governs the thinking in a learning organization. When people think systematically, they share responsibility for the good and the bad things that happens. Rather than looking for someone else to blame, you know, on work, when something happens, nobody want to take blame. This one hiding, that one hiding. It's not me, it's you. Everybody like to throw blame on each other, right? They try, instead of they looking to find a solution to a problem, they're looking to blame people. Think about too much problems, how much problems we blame on someone or something else rather than accepting responsibility for them and finding a way forward. according to this, we have gone through much details, right, about learning organization, because the capacity for an organization to continuously learn enables it to continuously recreate itself as it faces new challenges. Let's go on to the next slide, Ram, please. In this next slide, we'll deal with the virtuality and the impact of technology. Well, understanding the essential role of technology and its impact on organizational life is crucial. The growth of virtual teams and organizations has been chronicled in a number of publications. However, according to Charles Handy, he defines virtual organizations as organizations that do not need to have all the people or sometimes any of the people in one place in order to deliver a service, the service. The organization exists, but you cannot see it. It is a network, not an office. We should, in terms of virtuality, as a continuum. The more the team is separated in terms of geography, time or culture, or the more virtual it becomes. So what will a virtual organization be like in the future? Well, first of all, we must have trust, right? You must have trust because it's important and very difficult to develop when people don't see each other face to face. So we must develop trust. Because remember, we wouldn't be seeing each other as virtual, everything is virtual. So we must be able to develop trust. There's a need for a common purpose and values to be shared by all the organizational members. Organizations will certainly be flatter and built on the need for the organization members to believe and trust in each other, as I just talked about trust. And that will involve members at all levels involved in decision making more and more, right? So we'll move on to the next slide, please. We see here the roles of the E-team leader. The E-team leader roles that lead to effectiveness includes, and we have them there, enhancing cohesion, right? You must be able to bring them together, enhance them to come together. You must nurture trust. You must have that kind of trust. Promote sharing of information and ideas. Moderating team conflict. Facilitating team coordination and integration. And developing social and human capital. Right? That's some of the roles of the E-team leader. Right? And let's move on, please, to the other slide. Paradigm leadership in conventional paradigm cultures. The principles of new paradigm leadership. Well, in order for these new principles to work, right, we must first of all share what we know with each other, with other leaders and members of the organization, right? We must be able to, by sharing, you do two things. You learn the information better yourself, and you find some other interested people with whom you can continue to connect with. You accept personal responsibility for finding ways to use the information rather than always saying, well, so-and-so won't let me do that and this kind of thing. You know, you find a way, to do it. You maintain a positive outlook and try to find areas in which you can use this information rather than focusing on the areas that seem out of bounds. You continue to try new things, even how small it is. You just try something new. You volunteer for activities with other organizations, and you continue to read and explore. And then we move on to the other slide, which deals with the summary of the chapter. Well, as we see throughout this chapter, the importance of relational leadership model has been evident. It is only by being inclusive that an organization can creatively use the talents and abilities of all its members. By being empowering and process-oriented, the organization encourages all members to take an active role in the life of an organization. By being ethical, the organization ensures that members can hold each other to a higher standard of behavior that is more closely aligned with the organization's mission, vision, and core values. And finally, it is only when the vision or the common purpose is truly shared by the entire membership of the organization, then this organization can reach its potential and be purposeful. So next slide, please. This is the end of our, here we'll take any questions. If you all have any, we'll take any questions. We'll try to answer them to our best of our ability. Thanks so much, sir. Thanks so much, class. If there are no questions.